This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
I'm here now with John Paul McCaughey, who is a visiting assistant professor of printmaking and
foundations.
All right, so tell us, what is the foundations in printmaking?
Foundations, well, with mostly 2D design, drawing, and things like that nature.
So you're brand new. You came in on a one-year hire to take the place of Roger Bowman, who retired, well loved.
Temporarily, unless they want to rehire me.
So tell us about what attracted you to this position?
Well, I applied to a bunch of positions.
Sure.
I think last year I put in 30 applications.
Wow.
And I probably had about 7 interviews, and 3 of them were really serious about hiring me. This seemed to have the strongest program. I also had some really good recommendations to come here. I actually went to grad school with an alumni from here.
Oh, okay.
And so she spoke highly of it, and she spoke highly of me, and it was just a great fit.
So where are you from? You did your MFA at Ohio State?
I did my MFA at Ohio State, and then go Buckeyes, by the way. And also, I grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, so I did my undergrad at Rhode Island College. A very small state school, small conservative art department there. I spent much of my life in Rhode Island, and I felt like I needed to branch out a little bit, so I moved to Ohio, of all places. And I've been hopping around the country since then.
Where else have you taught? You've taught for several years.
I've taught 2 years at Ohio State, and then I taught an additional year in Kansas, and then this would be my 4th year teaching.
Okay, so that's interesting that UCA, which people don't maybe think of as having a national reputation. I mean, I think we have a very good reputation here, but outside the state, tell us what the reputation is.
I know of it just because the grad student that a colleague of mine at one point, she went to school here.
Who was it?
Her name was Kristen Spicker.
Okay, I do remember her.
Kristen Spicker. She's a photo major, and she actually took printmaking classes when she was in grad school.
And so she knew that Roger was retiring and suggested?
Actually, I applied to this position not even knowing that she went to school here.
What? Oh, really?
So we kind of connected about that afterwards.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And the committee that hired me actually contacted her for a reference.
Okay.
She wasn't on my reference list. But
you always do that.
Exactly.
Check somebody who's not on the reference list.
Yep.
So how was your first semester? How did you find the students? What are you teaching? That kind of thing.
First semester was really different. Every school that I teach at seems to have different needs. And this Ohio State, great students here. I felt like the students here are a little bit more conservative in their approaches to art making. So I'm trying to get them to branch out and try new things. That's exactly what my work tends to do.
So let's hear about this piece.
So my work deals with the blurring between physical and digital. And what that might look like, the aesthetic place where those two things can meet. Can that meet? So it's mostly me trying to figure out if I can blend those two things together. I'm really fascinated with society's dependence on technology and how technology, our virtual world, is influencing the things that are happening in our real world. For instance, the U.S. Army now has fatigues, their camouflage is all digitized. It's like little pixels. And they no longer have the swirly patterns. It's all digital stuff. And I'm wondering where that's coming from. What's our need to bring our digital world into the real world? And so I'm trying to blend those two. It's kind of like a dichotomy. It's like one or the other, but I'm trying to figure out a way if they can coexist.
So is this a new piece, or
this is a new piece? It's had it comes in different iterations. Like some of these things I'll use in different installations. Some things are reoccurring. I add new things. This is a totally new element to my installations.
Okay, but the printmaking is sort of the foundation of it.
Exactly. So you start here, and then I'm working my way out. So this thing really grows. I place something, and then I kind of have to deal with it. I have to figure out what to do next. So it's really like a process of figuring out where it wants to go. It's like its own beast.
Is it finished? Who knows?
I honestly, I could work on it for another week or a month or a year. It could grow as far as it wants to grow, but for the time restraint that we had, I think I'm happy with it.
Okay.
That's right.
What have you found about this? Is a faculty show. We're celebrating the UCA faculty in the art department.
Faculty.
Very diverse,
and we all, I think, jive really well. This is one of my favorite departments to work in. I felt like. It's very isolated in some other departments around the country. Like sometimes you can go weeks without seeing faculty. I don't feel that here, and I feel like everybody really, we tolerate each other. We like being.
And you appreciate each other.
Exactly.
Your different areas.
Exactly.
Okay.
Everybody wants to see us succeed. It feels like a little family here.
So how about the students? What are you finding besides being a little more conservative? But
see, I grew up in Rhode Island, and we have this saying out there: if it's more than 5 minutes, it's too far. Because Rhode Island's a small state, but out here, students are willing to travel to Chicago to see a show or DC, and that's really great. They're hungry to see good art. And that's actually what I appreciate most about teaching here. The students really want to be here.
So, John Paul, are you an artist who teaches or a teacher who does art?
I appreciate both equally. Sometimes I can't get to my art because I'm so involved in my teaching. But usually, I'll make a huge body of work, which takes me about 2 or 3 months, and then I'm not making anything for 3 or 4 months.
So you go in.
It's like phases for me. And some people like to work all the time, like they need their studio time, like every day. There needs to be like 2-3 hours. But for me, I work on a massive project, and then I need time to think about new ideas, to document, to apply to shows. There's all these things that need to happen in between my bodies of work.
Do you find that your teaching helps you as an artist?
Absolutely, absolutely. It keeps me thinking, and sometimes you see students doing some really interesting things that you want to kind of try. So absolutely. Being in an environment like this only helps me. And plus, we have access to all the studios.
And I'm sure that your art making also influences your teaching.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations on your first faculty show, and we'll look forward to more in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We'll be back in a moment.
We need a claim number? When I started taking care of Mom, I didn't realize the challenge of playing so many roles. But above all, I'm still her daughter.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving. We're here to help.
I'm here now with Liz Smith, ceramicist extraordinaire. So this stuff is great, Liz.
Thank you.
First, let's talk a little bit about your background. You've been here since 2001?
I have, since 2001.
And what brought you here, besides the job search?
For this job, really. I went to graduate school at LSU, but I am originally from Connecticut.
Okay.
And so I had a little bit of Southern exposure at LSU, and I applied for multiple positions, and this is the one that I got. And so I was fortunate to get this position right out of graduate school. So I just moved from Louisiana to Arkansas, and here I am.
And how have you seen the program change since you've been here 12, 13 years? How would you say, what's the arc of the art program now?
We've had a lot of new faculty come in. We've had a lot of folks retire. And so it's been exciting to sort of be here and see almost an entire turnover in the faculty, again, just because of retirement, not for any other reason.
But you're one of the
I'm not
senior.
One of the old ones.
Yeah.
I'm not one of the old ones. And so it's been exciting because, with every new faculty member, just sort of like new energy, new ideas come in. And so I think, I've seen the work getting, I think, stronger and maybe a little bit more experimental, sort of moving away from being maybe quite as traditional. And so for me, at least, I think that's exciting. Even though I work in a very traditional medium, it's exciting to see.
It's traditional, but I think when the novice thinks of art, they don't think of ceramics.
That's probably true.
So tell us, how did you become a ceramicist?
I touched clay.
And you just loved it.
And I just loved it. Really. I mean, I started.
At what age?
Well, I took art classes when I was really, really little. I mean, probably 10. But when I really became a serious interest was in high school. Probably my freshman year in high school, really.
Really?
And then by the time I got to college, I was pretty committed and just kind of never uncommitted. I stayed committed the whole time.
Okay,
so,
great.
Yeah,
so how do you, this piece is wonderful. I guess first tell us about the piece.
So it's a piece that, it's called The Garden, and I am an avid gardener, and I like to cook, and so all things gardening and food. And I grew up in the north, and I've also lived in the south, and those are very extremes in terms of climate. I lived for a while near Chicago, so 6 feet of snow, 6 feet of snow was not an uncommon occurrence. I lived in Maine for a while, in Vermont, and so the snow and the winter there is very intense. The fall up there is particularly beautiful, and down here, the summer is like nothing I had ever experienced. It is so sweltering hot, and the spring kind of lasts forever. And so it just was interesting to think about the different the difference in the climate from north to south. And I wanted to work on a project where I was focusing on color and really focusing on pattern and decoration. And so the way that I tried to sort of break up those criteria was each season having a different form, pattern, design, color. And so that's where it came from.
So we have birds.
Birds for spring. The grasshoppers for summer. I don't know. There's grasshoppers down here. They eat through my window screens. Really? Have you guys had that happen? It's crazy. So they absolutely in the summer will eat my garden to like stubs. And they're so voracious. They eat through our porch screen. And so I just kind of find them to be disgusting and prolific and just.
But it's a beautiful piece.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece.
But it's a little creepy, right? They've got a lot of legs. I just feel like they're kind of everywhere, sort of like the coming of the locust.
So how did you literally do this?
So they're all a little bit different, but it's a process called slip casting. And some of you maybe have gone to those paint your own pottery places, or maybe your grandparents, go and will have like a slip cast statue made where they'll paint it themselves, and then the business will fire it for them. So in this case, for most of these, I made the mold, the original positive myself, and then you make a plaster mold of it, and you pour a liquid slip in. So like this one was actually made from commercial molds. So these are all found existing commercial molds. You can find them on eBay or whatever. And I cast them and put them together. The grasshopper was all made from original positive. So I made his body, or there are actually 3 bodies in there of differing scale. And I made all their legs, and then I made a mold of that. This is actually, these twigs are from a tree that was in my yard, a willow tree that was in my yard at the time. I made a mold of that and then cast those in clay. And then these were just hand-built sphere positives that I made a mold of. And then you pour liquid clay in, and you pour it out of the plaster mold, and it creates sort of a shell. So they are automatically hollow when you pop them out of the mold.
So you've got a couple of toddlers at home.
I do.
So how? And this is quite an undertaking to do this. When did you do this?
I actually did this in 2000. It was completed in 2011, 2012. So I started it in 2010. And was working on it while I was pregnant, and I had my first son in 2011, and I exhibited the work after about a year of working. I exhibited it at the very end of 2011, and then 2012, and this is actually a different configuration. The original was a much larger piece. Each of these panels was like 6 feet tall, and they each had 10 of these on it, so this is a much smaller version of a much larger piece.
Okay.
So I finished it about the time when I exhibited about the time Izzy was born.
Okay.
My first son.
So are they budding ceramicists?
Izzy just the other day said he wanted to make pots just like mommy.
That's great.
I don't know if he really knows what that means, but he does. He wants to make cups with me, he said. So I think he likes the idea of being an artist, but like what kid wouldn't?
Yeah, sure, sure.
So he's interested.
Great.
He works in the studio with me sometimes.
And you have a home studio?
I do have a home studio,
good.
yeah.
And you said you make mostly bowls?
I actually make mostly pottery.
Pottery.
I sort of focus on functional work, so cups, pitchers, platters, things that you can use in the home, flower vases, that kind of stuff. But every once in a while, I venture out into sculpture and do that.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Spotlight will be back again in a moment.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Let's switch to Energy Star light bulbs and stop burning through cash. Saving energy saves you money.
Well, Barclay, thanks for joining us again today. It was a great preview of all this great stuff going on at the Baum Gallery. For more information about the people and programs featured on the show, call the College of Fine Arts and Communication at 501-450-3293, or check us out on the web at www.uca.edu/CFAC, and we're also on Facebook. Spotlight will be back next time. See you then.